Akira Dojima, my favorite female character in Kono Oto Tomare, and one of my favorite characters just in general. Her backstory was extremely powerful and was very pivotal for her character. It helped propel her from your average, edgy, temporary, I'm here to ruin your club antagonist into one of the main cornerstones of the series. Let's talk about it.
Everybody get your fucking hands up.
This backstory was a big favorite of mine, a story of love, passion, and loss. Great themes involving practice versus talent and living up to expectations. This backstory quickly recontextualized Akira's character by defining her motivations and highlighting the burden she carried for most of her career. Let's break it down. The backstory started off during her talk with Setawa. She mentions how ever since that day, she can't see the light or even know how the light feels like anymore. We then get word back to where it all started, the Dojima household. Now, the Dojima household was an interesting place, with a geniusly talented and carefree son, Keishi, similarly carefree mother, a strict grandmother, and the adorable young Akira. The household was bathed in times of peace and prosperity. Akira notes how much she loves listening to her brother and mother play the koto together. Hearing those sounds made her truly love the environment she was raised in. The backstory continues to build on Akira's idolization of her brother. He was a shining star, the ray of hope, and their ticket to a bright future for the family. Her brother kept reaching higher heights, and the more she watched him get popular and shine on that stage, the more her curiosity of that light he sees grew. She approaches him to get his approval of her worth when it came to the Koto lifestyle. He tells her not only will continuous practice be the key that allows her to see what he sees, but she can even be better than him if she keeps practicing. Having someone she put on such a high pedestal say this to her really prompted her to put in an insane amount of hours of practice to reach that goal of being number one and getting to that stage to see that light her brother sees. However, the better she got at the koto, the more she saw just how gifted her brother actually was. It's easy to call someone who's extremely gifted at something just, good or amazing, since you don't exactly know what's going on, but you do know that they're good at whatever it is they're doing. It isn't until you actually experience the process yourself that you properly understand just how talented these people are. And with this happening with Akira, she now fully recognized her brother as a proper genius. She continues on her path and starts to notice people negatively comparing her to her brother, calling her average and plain in comparison. Instead of getting swallowed in jealousy, she reminds herself that her brother didn't just reach that place through magic, but through continuous practice instead. She remembers her brother's inspirational words and vows to keep on practicing despite not being the genius that they're calling him. I really love this because it's so easy for a character to let jealousy overwhelm them when it comes to being compared to a talented sibling. I myself have some pretty talented siblings, but I made sure to work on myself to not get swallowed by those kind of emotions. But Akira knew better than anyone else the work he put in, and instead of letting that situation turn into a depressing, oh, I'll never be good enough, she instead turned into an inspirational moment where she decides herself to work even harder. And Amu, the mangaka, then shifts the backstory to the first major turning point, her parents' death. Now let's get back a bit before that very unfortunate car accident. Here, we have Akira's parents talking about her in the car, and they were praying for her success because she has been working extremely hard, and they even mentioned that she got number 2 at a recent competition. Now this is a big thing to note because Akira's goal has always been to get that number 1, and getting that number 2 means she was just a step away from her goal before her life was thrown off its course and into one full of doubt and uncertainty. The accident not only took away her parents, but also took away the household that she always loved and ended up taking away her brother's future with the Koto. Through a cruel twist of fate, everything she loved, idolized, and put on a pedestal was all snatched away from her all at once. Akira still couldn't comprehend what happened. Her brother, a genius at the Koto, was leaving that world and getting a job where he can provide for everybody immediately. With him gone, that bright future of the Tsubaki group was fading away very fast. In order to salvage what was left, she even offered to quit school to work so she could still support her brother into leading the group again, but that option was denied right away. Her brother, her idol, her goalpost was gone forever in the Koto world, and he's just not coming back. Now, Akira has two big burdens she has to carry. One, she has to now lead the Tsubaki group back to prosperity, and this means that she has to be a replacement for her brother. And two, her brother left the group in her hands, so now she has to prove that his decision to do that was not the wrong one. Despite lacking talent, the grandma notices that she's still good at teaching, and if they can just work on her skills, she might be able to be a satisfactory leader of the Tsubaki group. Akira is now in a position where her idol, her brother, is now gone, and she has to become that same existence her brother was. The task of reaching someone you put on such a high pedestal is unreasonably difficult, but her love for her brother makes her not want to let him down, and drives her to at least give it her best shot. The grandma suggests she plays Perversion of Water, since it is the top level song that showcases skill, singing, and expression at a very high level. Winning the most prestigious Koto competition with that song would make everyone accept her, since people were still very doubtful of her new position and her trying to replace her brother. What makes this feat so powerful is that she spent 2 years, solely on one song. Playing Koto for 2 years in general is completely different than spending 2 years on a singular song. Playing in general allows you to pick and choose what you want to explore with Koto, but Akira sacrificed all those options, sacrificed playing and exploring anything else to just hyper focus on this one song. All this to live up to those expectations placed on her, as well as to finally achieve her dream of shining on the stage just like her brother did. This led her to almost drown herself in practice to the point where it was almost unhealthy. And she kept doing this up until the fated day came, which ended up the next major turning point of her life. The day of the competition came, and her performance was up next. She was very anxious, but those years of practice helped calm her down and led her to perform at her absolute best. As she was performing, people were noting how every note sounds perfect, unwasted, and full of passion. They said it was almost like she treated every note as if they were precious, and one of them was imagining just how long did it take her to reach this level. Her performance goes towards the end, and she cries tears of joy as she recognized that this, for sure, is her best ever performance. One of the hardest songs ever, and she passed that hurdle with flying colors through all the hard work and effort she put in for those 2 years. Her greatest feat, and she had every right to get happy over it. As the grandma reassures her that she's definitely going to win the competition, Akira still decides to go watch another performance and ends up seeing Sitawa's. Sitawa plays the first note of her song, and that note alone stole the entire show. That single note showed Akira another wall, another obstacle, another level of Koto she couldn't hope to reach. Coming straight from her euphoria of just achieving her biggest achievement, she was plunged straight back down to reality where she's simply just not that special. She finds out that Sitawa played the wrong song and got disqualified. Akira is still bewildered and shocked at hearing such a powerful performance, but she still had to go on stage to receive her trophy for winning the competition. And as she walks, people in the audience are confused. Oh, why didn't Sitawa win, they say. But of course, being disqualified, she couldn't win. And Akira is hearing all this as she goes to receive her trophy and thus ends the event. Now, this is the part that really won me over. Akira stares at the number one trophy in utter disgust and embarrassment. This was everything she wanted, everything she dreamed of. Getting that number one, winning. She had it right now, in her hands, but it brings her nothing but pain. Akira imagined herself working her butt off at Koto, getting so good that she's recognized as the best player in the competition. And as she receives her number one trophy, that vision she saw She'll be the shining star. She'll be the main highlight. Unfortunately for her, the end goal was still achieved, but the means of how she achieved it felt no different than her lesser performances where she got second or less. She didn't feel like she won because she was the better Koto player, and Sitawa didn't lose because she performed worse than Akira. We would never know how that would have played out, but what we do know is that this win from Akira is nothing like she imagined to be, nothing like she dreamed of. If anything, it would have been better if she normally lost the tournament, since her eventual number one win, or her first number one win, wouldn't be tainted by such pseudo fraudulence. This scene ties back to what she said before the backstory started. After that day, she couldn't see the light. That stage where all her dreams were supposed to come true. That stage where that light her brother saw was finally gonna come into view. That stage where she will finally shine like she did in her dreams was completely destroyed by Setawa. Akira is used to losing, so it wasn't the loss itself that destroyed her motivation, but it was many factors. One of those factors could be the loss of her brother in the Koto world. The brother was a goalpost, someone she looked up to, someone she can see and get inspired to keep working on her Koto. Another would be the burden she now carries due to the fact she has to live up to her brother's expectations of leading the Tsubaki group, and of course, the Tsubaki group herself, she has to carry on as the last sole survivor of her family when it comes to Koto. One could be attributed to 2 years of straight practice. It really hurts putting that much hard work and effort, 2 years of straight practice, just for it to get crushed. And her performance itself was peak. She has never performed that well ever. And that day was supposed to be the day she overcame all those obstacles. That day was supposed to be her climax, the day where she reaches the next stage. But instead, she was given a pity win and was reminded of what true talent and true genius is through Seitawa. The place where she was supposed to find light, she found an even deeper, inescapable darkness. A win that's supposed to acknowledge all her previous efforts and give it meaning, instead became a constant reminder of that same darkness. Amu then shows us readers how Akira ended up joining the club in the first place. After the performance, Seitawa got kicked out of the group, and the grandma comes up with a scheme to get Akira as the head of the group, which she says is a shell of his former self. Akira knows to herself that the group that's actually a shell of his former self was their group, the Tsubaki group, but she follows along her grandma regardless. Akira thinks to herself, why do the geniuses, her brother, Seitawa, leave Koto, yet someone like her still hangs on? She thinks to herself that she's just tired, and it's painful to move on. She courses through her life feeling like this, till she meets Seitawa again, who's in a Koto club. A club anyone can join. Someone with talent capable of doing much more. Someone with talent capable of leading Koto groups, a bright future. Someone with talent that Akira coveted so much, yet she's just in a club. The same person who trusted Akira into deeper darkness right when she was about to reach her finish line is now playing Koto in a no-name club with a bunch of beginners. This brings us back to Akira's main question before the backstory of how much is this club worth to Seitawa that she would do all this, and thus ends the backstory. What a ride that was. I've come back to this backstory many times. I would randomly reread it or just randomly think about it here and there. Definitely an all-time favorite, and getting the point of view of a person that's lost so much, tries so hard, and yet still isn't good enough to reach the level they want to reach is one of the most powerful themes I've experienced personally, and the execution here was just beautiful. I love this series, and I love Akira. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Don't forget to hit that notification bell to not miss any uploads. Thanks again, and peace.